What is up, everyone? Max Lin here, and welcome back to my channel. This is the third episode of Themindhere, a series where I discuss the process and work that go into my transcription videos, give you guys an update on my transcription, as well as talk about various topics that come to my mind and are relevant to what I discuss. Alright, without further ado, let's dive straight into the progress I've made in the past 2 weeks. When we last left off, I had finished transcribing the melody for the song as well as the chords, determining which chords I wanted for the bass. This was done a while back, so if you want to take a look at how I did that, I encourage you to look at my previous videos. I had also made the left-hand pattern for about the first half of the song. That was most of the second episode. I also discussed what the words on the piece meant, the adjectives that are above the bar lines. So if you're interested in that, go back to my previous episode and take a look. In these past 2 weeks, I continued from where I left off and worked on the left-hand pattern for the bass, as well as tweaking and refining it. One of the first things I did was go back to one of the sections that I had already worked on, the section labeled Determined, which was from measure about 58 to 73, and I revised it a bit. I tweaked the left-hand pattern to make it sound smoother and more natural, because the original bass didn't quite give the feeling of determination. There were a lot of whole notes in there, so it was much more jumpy, I guess. It was sectioned off, so it didn't flow quite as well. I made the pattern a bit more loosened up with more transitions and smaller increments, so I used quarter notes and half notes. That way it flowed much better than it did before. After fixing that section, I moved on to the next section, labeled Uncertain, which was from measures 74 to 89. I swapped out the treble clef for the bass clef in the left hand because the bass clef, the treble clef was left over from the previous section, which it was easier to read in treble clef, but from then on in the uncertain section, it wasn't appropriate to use the treble clef, so I switched it back to bass clef. In this section, it was pretty similar to one of the previous sections, so I borrowed from the previous earlier section the structure of the syncopation that I used in the left hand to generate that pattern. Now, of course, since this isn't the same section as the previous section, I changed up the left hand a bit, so that second part of the left hand in the uncertain section, instead of using the dotted quarter for a start, I gave it a little roll of eighths into it, so it felt a bit more, I guess it was a bit smoother, and it played into the uncertainty of the section that I felt with the change in the pattern halfway through. It also gives it a bit of a variety, as no one really likes to hear the two same sections in a song. It has to be different somehow. Now, in the section labeled Proud, which was from about measure 90 to measure 107, you'll notice two interesting things. The first thing to note is that at first glance, it doesn't appear that I've changed the basic chords that I put in to substitute the left-hand side. It appears I didn't change that for the actual left-hand pattern, which is true. The original song, this section, I wanted it to reflect the original song, and in the bass of the original song, the basses were pretty much whole notes. And actually, the first week I transcribed this part, I left it as whole notes, or mostly whole notes, because I thought that it was appropriate. But when I listened to it again, I found out that it didn't sound quite right with just being all whole notes, so then I changed it a bit. The second interesting thing to see is that I actually, in the second half of this section, I actually changed the basic chords that I put in. Upon listening to the original song one more time, I found out that the bass chords didn't quite sound right in my transcription. So then I listened to it and found the actual chords to put in. This is why it's important for me, at least, to listen to the song before I start transcribing and keep listening to that section that I'm trying to transcribe. That way I can verify with myself. And even though in this part where I'm not copying down the melody, where I'm trying to make my own bass section, the left-hand pattern, it's still important to cross-verify. That way, if the song sounds off with the original song, then I'll know when to change it. And obviously, all of this is in beta right now. All these changes that I make could be changed in the future, and for all I know, I could just scrap the entire thing and start over again. I probably won't, because it'll take too much time and effort, and I sort of like where it's going right now, but that's a possibility. Now, it's also important to note that I will probably be able to finish the transcription by the next update. So, because there's only about 20-ish measures left, and a lot of those are repeats, there are similar structures that I can borrow from and just tweak. And then all I have to do after that is polish it, make sure it sounds good, and then put it up as a transcription video. So hopefully by the next time I'll actually have the video out. But if not, I'll tell you guys why. Whew, all right. Those were all the updates to the transcription. I will have the current version in the end of this video if you want to check it out. But for now, let's talk about something that's actually relevant to the title of this video. I recently hit 50 subscribers. Wow, that's not a lot actually. Not even enough to customize the channel address. That takes 100. But I don't care. Well, it's still amazing to see the progress of my channel, and I didn't go into this wanting to get subscribers. That was sort of a byproduct, a happy accident per se, for what I really was trying to do with the channel, which was to put down my music in a way that was nice to look at and presentable. Still, my channel has been an incredible, long-running experiment for me, and I'd like to thank everyone that helped me get here. Frankly, I'm still surprised that people who I don't actually know in person subscribe to me. I guess my music is somewhat good, so nice. And with music theory class in full swing, hopefully by the next piece, I should be significantly better at making these, and hopefully a lot faster too. That way I can get more out, because it's been the first transcriptions have been coming out at a rate of like 2 a year, so hopefully I can pick that up a bit more. And you know what? Part of the reason why I started this series was to make myself more accountable for producing this sheet music. My theory behind it is if I give you guys constant updates about it, then I'll be more motivated to actually making the sheet music and be productive with my time. Disappointingly, not related to music, but with my personal projects, I don't think I've been productive recently with that. My schoolwork, I can get that done pretty fast, but just with my own projects that don't have a set deadline, no one else is enforcing it, it's been hard to get them done. This is why I feel like that accountability piece is important. It's too easy to get sidetracked, and that accountability helps me get on track and make sure I'm not deviating. Even with my transcriptions, which is why I'm making these updates. Sometimes I sit there and fall into some rabbit holes with exploring different melodies, or digging too deep into what the bass is supposed to sound like, or just listening to the original song without actually analyzing or using it for any purpose. And I know this is supposed to be a music update about my transcriptions, but I'll probably just give a brief update about myself and my personal projects here as well, just for accountability purposes. And hey, I feel like it's a relatable problem, so maybe that'll help you guys out somehow. You know, one thing that has been bothering me though, and has been bothering me for a while, is the constant praise that I get from everyone around me. Now, that might sound like a humble brag kind of problem, but really it is. My friends holding me up to a sort of godly status, with whether it be academics or athletics, whatever it is, it isn't always good. That praise isn't always good and healthy, because when I inevitably show that I'm human and mess up somehow, it almost serves as a disappointment. That isn't healthy, and as I look on YouTube, it looks like other YouTubers are feeling it. Other famous people start doubting themselves, and I think I read somewhere about it being called imposter syndrome, and I feel like that it is an issue. It might be somewhat first world, but it still is an issue. So it's just nice to have somewhere where I can be honest and talk as if there were no expectations. I can even use the low viewership of these videos to my advantage because then I can be free knowing that not many people will see it. And the people that do, I know I have a good community to back me up. Alright, now if you've made it this far into the video, I applaud your mental endurance. Before I give out the progress video for the transcription, I'd like to seriously thank my subscribers. All 50 of you, thank you so much for helping me reach this milestone. Thank you for the support that you've given me, the comments, and the feedback, and for being part of this community. It's small, but I'm proud of it. And I hope that we can continue to grow together, and hopefully I'll produce better content for you all. Hopefully I can help you in some way with my videos and show you how this is done. And if you have any concerns, questions, or comments, feel free to leave it below in the comments section. Without further ado, here's what I have so far.